Everyone wants to be seen as a good person, kind, selfless, harmless, agreeable. We learn it young that being good means being liked, that if we're quiet, polite, and always available, life will reward us. People will love us. We'll be safe. But here's the part they don't tell you. That same goodness is why you feel invisible, overlooked, used, trapped in obligations that drain you, relationships that hollow you, and a life that feels more like a performance than a choice. Being a good person was never about being you. It was about being acceptable. And the more acceptable you become, the more you disappear. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about how the world rewards boldness, not obedience, how boundaries are more respected than kindness, and how you were never meant to be everyone's favorite person. You were meant to be your own. You weren't taught how to be whole. You were taught how to be good. And so from the earliest moments, you began to shape yourself around other people's expectations, not out of love, not out of truth, but out of fear. Fear of disappointing, fear of punishment, fear of rejection. You became fluent in silence, in obedience, in staying small so others could feel big around you. And every time you said yes when you wanted to say no, the world rewarded you with a gold star and took something from your soul. Being good was never about being yourself. It was about being acceptable. And so you smiled when you were hurt, stayed when you should have walked away, forgave when someone hadn't even apologized, and agreed just to avoid the discomfort of being misunderstood. Slowly, gently, and consistently, you erased yourself. Not all at once, but piece by piece, because every time you chose to make someone else comfortable at the cost of your own truth, you were laying another brick in the cage of performative goodness. And what a beautiful cage it is. Everyone loves you in there. You're easy. You're nice. You're reliable. But that's the problem, isn't it? They love you because you've made yourself small enough to be safe. And that version of love, it suffocates. You think your kindness is your strength. But let me ask you something honest. How often is your kindness fueled by fear? Fear of upsetting someone? Fear of confrontation? Fear of being seen as selfish, difficult, or cold? Because if fear is the engine, it's not kindness, it's control. And not control over them, control over yourself, over your voice, over your wants, over your right to take up space. People don't admire that version of you. They use it, and they expect it. You teach them that you will not defend your time, that you will absorb their chaos, that you will always be available, and so they stop asking how you feel. They stop wondering what you want, because you've made yourself a background character in your own life, always adjusting, always accommodating, always there. And now you're exhausted. But the exhaustion isn't from doing too much. It's from abandoning yourself too often. It's from being present for everyone but you. It's from holding space for others while your own needs sit rotting in silence. Let's say this clearly now. Goodness without truth is just servitude. Kindness without boundaries is emotional slavery. And being agreeable at the cost of your values isn't strength. It's slow spiritual death. You were not born to be nice. You were not born to be liked. You were born to live fully, love honestly, and walk through this world with your integrity intact. And sometimes that means upsetting people. Sometimes it means saying no and letting the silence hang. Sometimes it means disappointing others just to finally stop disappointing yourself. If being good means being empty, then it's not goodness. It's just a polite way to disappear. So let them call you selfish. Let them say you've changed. Let them feel the shock of your boundaries. Because the truth is, This is not your breaking point. It's your awakening. There is a myth we're all taught, so deeply embedded that we begin to confuse it with morality itself. The myth that the less you need, the more lovable you are. That if you can give everything and ask for nothing, you'll finally be worthy. That love is proved through sacrifice. That if you always show up, if you always stay calm, if you never inconvenience anyone, you'll be protected. You'll be chosen. You'll be safe. But what happens when there's nothing left to give? You see, selflessness sounds noble until you realize it's often just code for self-abandonment. You've been so conditioned to be useful, to be helpful, to be easy to deal with, that your worth has become directly tied to what you can do for others. Your time, your emotional labor, your availability. They're all things people have come to expect from you, not because they're evil, but because you taught them that's all you offer. And you, somewhere deep inside, thought that was love. That love was proven by how much you could carry. That relationships were earned through depletion. That being needed was the same as being valued. But need and love are not the same thing. And your body knows it. That ache you feel at the end of the day, that resentment that builds after every unspoken no, that deep fatigue that no amount of sleep can fix. That's your soul keeping score of all the moments you betrayed yourself just to be accepted. Because you've been giving from a place of survival, not wholeness. You've mistaken selflessness for sainthood, when really it's been a slow erasure of your needs, your voice, your presence. You say yes, not out of love, but because no feels unsafe. You overextend, not because you have more to give, but because you don't want to be seen as unkind. You smile through the pain because you believe that if you stop being useful, people will leave. And here's the painful part. Some of them will. The moment you draw a line, they'll vanish. The moment you say, I can't do this anymore, they'll call you cold, distant, or selfish. Because your selflessness wasn't inspiring to them, it was convenient. But the moment someone gets angry at you for having boundaries, what they're really saying is, I preferred you when you didn't matter to yourself. And that's the exact moment you should walk away without explanation. You are not the solution to everyone else's problems. You are not here to be emotionally responsible for people who refuse to grow. You are not a service provider in someone else's life story. You have needs, you have limits, you have a right to say enough, and you don't need to earn rest. You don't need to earn love. You don't need to apologize for choosing peace. This is not selfish. This is survival with a spine. This is clarity wrapped in self-respect. So when the guilt comes, and it will, remember this. You are not abandoning others. You're simply returning to yourself. And no, not everyone will clap for that. But your future self, the one who's finally whole, rested, and free, they'll thank you for starting now. There's something intoxicating about being liked, about walking into a room and knowing no one has a problem with you, about playing the role so perfectly that no one ever complains, no one ever challenges you, no one ever questions your presence because you've made yourself so easy to digest. You become fluent in comfort, not your own, but theirs. You anticipate needs before they're spoken. You learn to read the room and shrink accordingly. You laugh when something hurts. You agree when something offends. You nod to keep things light. And all of it, it works. You become the person who's always nice, always helpful, always safe. And in the short term, it feels like peace. But long term, it's a quiet form of self-betrayal. Because when everyone likes you, what they really like is your adaptation, your ability to disappear into their preferences, to say the right thing, to never be too much, to blend. But here's the truth no one tells you. If everyone likes you, You've probably lost touch with who you are, and you can feel it. You start doubting your opinions. You second-guess your feelings. You wonder if your real self is too sharp, too loud, too blunt. Because you've been hiding that self for so long, it feels dangerous to let it out. But let's ask something real. What exactly did you sacrifice to be liked? Your time, your voice, your energy, your boundaries, your truth? And is the payoff even real? Because being liked is fickle. It's shallow. It's often based on performance, not presence. People like you because you don't challenge them, because you don't inconvenience them, because you don't make them think. But what happens when you stop performing? They leave, or they change, or they turn on you. And that's when you learn. Being liked is not the same as being respected. Being liked is easy. Being respected requires truth, and truth costs something. It costs ease, it costs harmony, it costs a few people walking out, but it gives you back something they never could, your integrity. If you spend your life keeping the peace, you'll never have time to know peace because you're constantly checking your volume, your tone, your words, your wants, trying not to upset anyone, but upset them. If honesty does it, let it happen. If your boundary shakes their comfort, let it shake. Because someone who loves you only when you're agreeable does not love you. They love the echo chamber you've built around their needs. You were not put on this earth to be neutral. You were not born to be polite background music. You have something to say. You have values to defend. You have limits to honor. Stop making yourself smaller just to fit into other people's preferences. Stop selling your self-worth for crumbs of external validation. Start standing. Start saying it. Start letting people feel whatever they need to feel when you choose to protect your peace. Will they say you've changed? Yes. Will some of them leave? Definitely. But what remains will be real. The right people will not leave when you show your truth. They will meet you there. And for the first time in your life, you will meet you there too. There comes a moment, sometimes sudden, sometimes slow, when the mask cracks, when the smiles feel hollow, when the praise you used to live for starts to sound like noise, when you realize that the good person everyone admires is not a person at all, but a role you've been performing so well, you forgot it was an act. You wake up one day and ask, who am I if I stop being convenient? Who am I if I stop making everyone comfortable? Who am I when I say no and mean it? That's the beginning of something they never prepared you for. That's the beginning of becoming dangerous. Not dangerous as in reckless, not cruel, not cold, but dangerous in the sense that you finally become someone who cannot be manipulated with guilt. Someone who knows where they end and others begin. Someone who doesn't fear walking alone because they'd rather be alone than be surrounded by people who only love the version of them that bleeds silently. When you stop performing, something powerful happens. You stop attracting people who want to control you, and you start attracting people who can meet you in your truth. You stop being drained by every room you walk into. You stop handing out energy like candy and hoping someone gives you some back. You begin to operate from clarity, not obligation, from inner alignment, not approval seeking. You become the kind of person who sets standards, not one who accepts whatever's offered. You stop negotiating with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to be chosen by people who can only love you conditionally. You stop tolerating being the strong one when what you really need is to be held. And people notice. Some will call you selfish. Some will call you arrogant. Some will say you've become too much, too direct, too intense. But look closely. Who are the ones saying this? The ones who never asked how you were really doing? The ones who loved the old you because the old you never said no. Let them talk. Let them go. Because becoming dangerous means becoming honest. It means valuing your own time, your own body, your own nervous system, more than someone's fleeting opinion of you. It means finally realizing you don't owe your loyalty to people who demand it, but never reciprocate it. It means realizing that peace was never about keeping others comfortable. It was about choosing to feel whole in your own skin. The good person was a version of you that got you here. They kept you safe. They helped you survive. But you are not here to survive anymore. You are here to thrive, to build, to love, to be real. And you can't do that as long as you're still playing the role. So shed the mask, break the mold, step into the discomfort of being seen, fully, loudly, without apology. Because the world doesn't need more people who are liked. It needs more people who are free. Let this be the moment you realize you weren't born to be palatable. You weren't made to be everyone's favorite flavor of soft. You were not placed on this earth just to be tolerable, convenient, or self-erasing. You were born to take up space, to speak the truth even when your voice shakes, to say no without guilt and yes without obligation, to walk away when something is draining you, to let people be disappointed, confused, or even angry because their peace is not your purpose. Being a good person has ruined too many lives, not because goodness is bad, but because it was never yours to define. It was handed to you, forced on you, conditioned into you. And now it's time to hand it back. Goodness without boundaries is just emotional slavery. Kindness without honesty is just manipulation of the self. And selflessness without self-respect is not noble, it's negligence. So be kind, but be fierce. Be warm, but be wild. Be good, on your own terms. And if someone ever calls you selfish for finally honoring your limits, smile. And remember, it's not selfish to stop bleeding for people who would never give you a bandage.